Hi, Tim. Good morning.
Good morning.
So yeah, we'll start the class now. Good morning, everyone. So today so sorry, past 2 days I couldn't attend the class because I was completely down with the fever, and that's the reason. And yeah, so today we'll discuss the the introduction to AWS and how the cloud has evolved. So these all things we'll discuss today. Okay, and let me share my screen. So yeah, hope you all can see my screen, right? Now coming to the cloud computing. So what is a cloud computing? Why was so popular nowadays? And every organization was moving into the cloud. And previously we used to have the normal, physical servers, and now everywhere we are using AWS cloud or Azure cloud. What is this cloud, first of all? And I can give you one example. For example, think of an Uber or an Ola or these services like taxi services. So you have your own car. Okay. For example, you have your own car, and when you have your own car, so you do the down payment, right? So to purchase to own, when you have your own car, so first you will purchase that one. In order to purchase, you will do the down payment with a huge money, and you will do the EMI, or you might pay complete down payment of the car, complete payment of the cash of your car, right? So you purchase the car, and now you do the maintenance of that car, and you do the petrol. You give the petrol to that car, and you do the servicing, everything you do, right? So what is the purpose of that car? To reach the destination, right? Uh, to I mean, what is the main purpose of the car? Anyone? So it's just to reach your, reach your destination from the source to destination. From the source to destination, you want to travel. It's just a kind of commutation, right? So that's where, in order to, if you want to access this Uber or Ola, right? You just book at ad hoc times. You just book, and you just reach out to your destination. That's it. You don't need of maintenance. You don't need to maintain the car. You don't need to maintain this. Petrol. All these things you don't need to take care of. The headaches and all, you don't need to take care, right? So you feel the difference. Instead of owning a car, and instead of just booking a taxi and utilizing that services, why Uber or Ola, why they became so popular? So it's a kind of ad hoc basis. You are just utilizing those services, and you are just stopping them. You doesn't need to maintain those things. For example, I can give you another example also. So imagine our classroom has, AC, and that stops working. The air conditioner suddenly it got stopped working. Will we buy another, each separate person? We will buy a separate AC, or how will we do? So we will share an AC in an installed classroom, and we will enjoy it, right? So we will pay only for the usage. So it's just exactly like the cloud computing. Like, cloud is something, it's someone else's computer. You just pay. That's it. You just rent it out, and you pay only for what you use. So that is what the cloud computing is. So only you pay how much you use. There are some startups and all, they cannot install the huge, uh, in order to maintain the servers. It's not that easy, physical servers, you know. So it requires a lot of, so see in Vishakhapatnam, they are installing the data center, right? So what is a data center? What is a data center? So anyone can tell me what is a data center? What do you mean by data center? Anyone?
A cloud storage where it will stores the information of a customer.
Stores the.
Information of the customer means if you are using a Gmail, right? So Gmail,
Mhm.
the mails we will receive, so those mails
Mhm.
will be stored in the data center only. So according to your email ID and passwords.
Okay.
So like
Okay.
how the cloud services will be provided, and after few there will be a time period, right? So after the time period, the data will be removed, but the time lapse will be more.
Got it. So that's the database. What you told is database. Yeah, the database inside. The database will be stored in the servers. Yeah. So that is one way of answering. And see, for example, I'll tell you in this way. You have your computer, right? So you have your computer, personal computer, and you have your hard disk, you have your motherboard, everything. The computer consists of what? It consists of motherboard, it consists of hard disk, it consists of CPU and all these things, memory and all this. So server is nothing but it's kind of having 100 GB of, huge storages, like 3 terabytes, 4 terabytes, gigabytes. So these are kind of servers. So it's just a kind of higher configuration, what we call it as server. Okay. And when you have a server with that kind of configuration, you should have an cooling, right? Obviously, you should have some cooling kind of cooling pads. You have your laptop with a higher end configuration. For example, you take an gaming laptop. So it should have an cooling. Obviously, it should have a cooling pad because it will be having higher CPUs and it will be having GPUs as well. So it requires an cooling, right? So that's where if you think of having a huge kind of memory, huge kind of hard disks, and huge kind of power, GPU, CPUs. So that kind of servers, when you have hundreds of thousands of servers, you will be requiring lot of maintenance. Kind of, you should be having ACs, and you should be having cooling towers, and you should be having kind of maintenance people to do that maintenance, right? And you need the support for that, for those servers. So these all things are required. Do you think for there is a startup, you take it as a startup, right? So the startup people, the startup is having a budget of around, he is having a very low budget, right? And he everyone will be having a web server, right? Every For every small company requires a web server. So that web server should be deployed on a server. So web server means what? So web server is something, this is the word. So for example, KSR technology, right? So KSR technology is something, it's a kind of web server. So this web server should be deployed onto backend on one of the server, right? Either Linux. So it's a mostly on the Linux they will be deploying it, right? So they will be deploying it on the Linux servers. And after deploying it, so do you think the, do you think that it will be completed? No. So they need to maintain this server. And in order to, for example, they need to log in, right? So if I do login, so if I do login, I'll get the storage. Sorry. Yeah. So if I log in, I need to store the credentials somewhere in the backend. Where do I store? In the database. So for that database, again, in that server itself, I need to install the database or I need to connect to the database, right? Sorry. So I need to connect to the database. So these all things will happen in the backend, right? In order to achieve this, I need a server. So for any of the company, either a startup, either a big companies, from small to big, I need a server. So server means nothing but it's a kind of computer. So that server is hosting somewhere else. If you maintain this kind of setup in your, for example, in KSR only, you take KSR itself. Do you think KSR maintains the servers? If they maintain the server, what will happen for them? They need to have one separate room, and they need to have the AC for that room. And for example, if anything goes wrong, if in that server the motherboard goes, or the hard disk went wrong, there will be 4 or 5 hard disks and one hard disk went wrong. So what will happen? Immediately this will be crashed. This KSR data vision will be gone. And you will raise a case with the vendor in the sense you will raise a case with uh, I mean uh, the server people, right? Once you raise the case with the server people, what will happen? The server, in order to reach your place from their place, it will take some time, right? And minimum it will take 3 days of downtime for you to replace the hard disk, to just replace the hard disk, or to just replace the faulty disk or faulty mother, or I mean anything. So in order to replace, it will take 2 to 3 days, right? So that's what the difference. You maintaining is that's what you maintain is, it's a kind of headache for you. Instead of that, that's where the cloud computing came. So have you heard recently the? I'll tell you one example. How many of you have this water installers? Kind of. Do you have this water? Like Kent. So do you have that Pureit Kent? Do you have that kind of water filters in your home?
Yes.
Right. So recently, recently I have installed it. So we have a model called Pay As You Go. So they have installed. I have Pureit, I think so. They have the model called like, there are some, yeah, Drink Prime. So see, Drink Prime. So what does this mean? Like 349 per month. So drink the water like how much you want. Like the mission and all, they will install it. Okay. They will not charge you for the mission, right? They will charge only for the water, how much you consume. It's a kind of subscription model. So now everyone is going into the subscription model. So for example, if you buy the previously I used to have this kind of what do we call RO, which is an Kent. So every 1 year, I mean, for us, hardness is so high. So every year we used to change the filters, and for those filters, I used to purchase. Even I used to take the AMC, annual maintenance charges, and I used to. I mean, it used to cost me a loss. It used to cost me a lot. But now, after I switched to Drink Prime, so what happened is, I mean, they will charge me only on the how much water I consume. That's it. Like for example, I mean, I took it for, see, it's zero maintenance cost and zero installation, zero maintenance, and so you see right here, zero maintenance cost and zero installation. In the same way, you can call. I mean, why I'm telling you this one is in the same way everyone is moving it. So instead of you maintaining the mission, instead of you maintaining the AMC, and instead of you maintaining all these headaches, so you just pay for what you use. That's it. So that's the reason. I mean, that's where this cloud computing has been evolved, and everyone started. Every startup has been started using this, utilizing this, right? And I mean, that's the reason it became so popular. And see, cloud is nothing but it's just a kind of wrapper of server, right? So there are three parts. I mean, there are four models in the cloud computing. I mean, three models in the cloud computing. One is IaaS. I'll tell you. So hope you understood what is a cloud computing. Why was it used? Any doubts? What is a cloud computing and why was so if not, so we have three models. Like we have three models in the cloud computing. One is infrastructure as a service. One is infrastructure as a service, IaaS. One is PaaS. One is SaaS. So what are these? Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. The complete cloud computing consists of only these three models. Okay. So to understand this, let's um, first we'll take as first we'll take infrastructure as a service. What is infrastructure as a service? You think of a pizza, right? For example, so in order to make the pizza, so you need the raw materials, right? What are the raw materials like duff, cheese, oven, kitchen, right? So these all things you need in order to cook the pizza, right? So it's a kind of base. I mean, it's kind of in order, for example, in order for you to construct a home. So what do you need? So you need the raw material like the cement, you need bricks, all, I mean, you need the place, right? So you need the foundation, everything you need, only the foundation things to construct an pizza or to I mean to cook the I mean to prepare the pizza or to construct an home, anything you need the foundation and the required the raw materials, right? So that is what the infrastructure as a service in this in cloud. So infrastructure as a service consists of these EC2s, and in the Azure we'll have VMs. What is a EC2? What is a VM? EC2 is nothing but it's a kind of elastic compute storage. So it's a kind of servers. It's a virtual machines, right? So that is what the EC2, that is what that is what the servers are, right? That is what the infrastructure as a service. So, and now next coming to the thing is, I mean, PaaS, platform as a service. Now what happened? Infrastructure is ready, right? I mean, the home is ready. I mean, the base, I mean, the complete foundation is ready. I mean, the pizza base is ready, right? But still, you need the toppings, right? You need to customize the toppings, right? So you need to add, so that is where the platform as a service is. So like an elastic beanstalk. Like you write the code, cloud handles it. Like cloud handles it. It's a just a kind of um, you take the AKS or EKS, like Kubernetes services. So Kubernetes you can install either on the servers or you can use AWS one, the cloud. I mean, he has given the one service which will be maintained by him and which will be maintained by you as well, right? So that is what platform as a service. He will give you as a rental. Like I mean, uh, for example, you had a home constructed, and he will give you the for rental with an furnished home, and you can use that semi-furnished home, and you can use that, right? That is what the platform as a service. Like he will give you the platform, and you can use the service, right? So that is what the platform as a service. And now coming to the software as a service. So software as a service is something it's completely ready, right? And you just eat it. So with the toppings, everything. So it's a kind of platform as a service is semi-furnished, you can say, and software as a service is a fully furnished home. So he has given you the fully furnished home, and it's completely you can use whatever you want. Like see, the real-time examples, if we can give it as a Gmail or Netflix or Google Docs, right? So what are the softwares you're just logging in and you're using it. You no need to maintain or you no need to do anything. So hope you are getting it. See, platform as a service is something you need to maintain. It's a kind of half will be maintained by AWS, and half of the things will be maintained by you, right? Ownership will be shared by AWS and ownership will be shared by you. SaaS is something it's completely it will be like completely fully software. It will be given to you. And for example, how many of you know Snowflake or SAP? How many of you know SAP or Snowflake services or
No,
any of you
no,
know this Snowflake services or anyone? Okay. So those are SAP for example, you take the SAP service, right? So SAP is a kind of software. So that complete software, I mean, the AWS will provide, and that AWS, I mean, you can use that software, the complete whole software bundle, you can use it as it is. So that's what the software as a service, right? So that is what I mean, infrastructure as a service and platform and software as a service. So these are the three important models in the cloud computing. And now we have the deployment models, right? So any doubts still here,
no, sir.
right? So in the cloud deployment models, example, I mean, what is this cloud deployment models? So uh, we can take an example like I mean, again, take an example like an apartment. So we have three types of, I mean, we have four types. One is public, one is public, one is public cloud, one is private cloud, and one is hybrid. So these are the three. And yeah. So what is a public cloud and what is a private cloud and what is a hybrid cloud? And now people, I mean, you might hear uh, everyone is public cloud, public. I mean, in the JDs as well, in the job descriptions as well, you are seeing either one public cloud. What is this public cloud? And 1 decade back, there is nothing called this public cloud, right? And now everyone, you're seeing this term called public cloud. What is a public cloud? So it's a kind of, public cloud is something kind of sharing the building. I mean, like an apartment, you go for a rental, right? Anyone can do the anyone. There is a rental flat, right? So that is public, and anyone go for the rental for that, right? It's a kind of shared building and low cost and low high. I mean, you will be having high convenience according to whenever you want, you can shift to another home, right? So if you doesn't want, you can shift to another home. For example, there are multiple gated communities. You like one gated community, you go there, right? And you pay there. You stay, I mean, you stay there, right? And if you doesn't want, you don't like it, you just want to shift it from one place to another place. I mean, you will shift there. For example, in Bangalore, so uh, there is a lot of traffic. For example, I purchased a flat, right? I purchased a flat and I got stick to that flat. Even my office is in like 40 kilometers, I mean 30 kilometers far from my home. But still I travel. Why? Because I own my flat. I mean, it's my flat and I couldn't shift it. I couldn't shift to that place and I stayed here. So if I would have stayed by rental, I mean, if I would have stayed, I mean, if I wouldn't have purchased this home, I should have shifted there, right? Since I purchased this flat, I was staying here and I was traveling and I mean, I was taking the pain. I was taking this pain, right? So see the difference between the public and see the difference between the rental flats, and there might be some comforts being in private flat. I mean, what uh, what private? I mean, what are the kind of benefits you get is kind of privacy, not privacy. I can say it's a kind of uh, tomorrow someone can come and tomorrow can I mean they cannot say you go and vacate like that. That is one benefit, right? Apart from that, what benefits I have? So every day I travel 40, 30 kilometers from my home to office, right? So it takes almost 2 hours for me, right? So that's what, if I'm not on private, I mean, if I wouldn't have purchased, I would have easily vacate to the uh, nearby my office and I would have stayed there, right? So that is one thing. So public is something, it's a kind of rental flat, right? So which is a kind of shade, and private is, as I told, it's a kind of I mean having your own kind of having your own independent house, right? So that's what I mean. Now coming to the, what is a public cloud? So public cloud is something you will be, as I told, you just take the rental from the third party. You deploy all our resources, or you use those resources. I mean, AWS resources or Azure resources or GCP resources, and how much you use those resources, you just pay them. That's it. You got it. So that is what the public cloud is. I mean, you keep all your stuff, you keep your all belongings in that cloud, in that space, right? And for example, you keep your all your jewelries or all your money into an any of the bank locker, right? So where are you storing your money, or where are you storing your jewelry things? All you're storing somewhere outside of the your home, right? So inside the private, I mean inside the inside the bank lockers or somewhere, there will be a risk compared to your home, right? If you keep inside your home also, there is a risk with the kind of robberies and all. So you can ask, what is the risk if I keep in the bank lockers or anything? So have you heard recently an incident stating that, I mean, there is only 5 lakhs only the bank can give you back. You know that? I mean, if you store your complete jewelry in the bank, right? And that bank completely, um, the theft or something happened in the bank. You have an insurance of only 5 lakhs. You will be getting only 5 lakhs irrespective of how much you store it there. Anyone knows about this one?
No, I'm hearing it now.
Yeah. So you will be getting only 5 lakhs in the return, not more than, how much it is there in the storage, you will get that much money. No, you will get that, you will get all the jewelry, whatever you stored in the bank. No, it's not like that. There is only 5 lakhs insurance, or 5 lakhs, or I think maximum 5 lakhs. How much is the one which is, uh, which you can get it if anything wrong happens? If anything, if anything bad happens, you will get only 5 lakhs. So you will be having risk either in your home or in your bank locker, right? So which is more riskier? I mean, having in your home is more risk, or having in the bank is more risk? Why people prefer in the bank? Because they know that is more secure. For example, if you keep in your home, what you need to do? You need to buy a locker, and you need to install that locker in the you need to install that locker. You need to do some maintenance for that, and you need to install, if you have so much of jewelry and all, you need to install a CCTV. And even if you do that, you will be having some fear kind of, anything might happen. So in order to move that headache, what do? You just keep in the bank, right? So that is what here the public can, that is where the servers also. So you keep, instead of you maintaining the servers, you just give it to the external vendors, right? So, and you ask them to maintain servers, in the sense, I can keep it in this way, maintaining the application. So instead of you maintaining your own application, so you give it to the the third party. You can ask them to install. You can ask them to make. Kind of what you can say. You can ask them to maintain your applications on behalf of you, and you can pay how much the maintenance cost is, and you can pay them, right? So that is what the public cloud is. So it's a kind of shared responsibility. And do you think in the bank, do you think you will be having only one locker, with respect only your locker will be there? No, it will be like multiple lockers will be there. Have you, if you have ever gone inside the locker room, so there will be in multiple lockers, right? There will be only one room, the big room, and there will be multiple lockers. So, so see, see, there is only one room, but there are multiple lockers, right? This might be yours, this might be someone else. So it's a kind of sorry. Yeah. So there might be multiple lockers, and there might be, see, if you can see here, there might be multiple people here, right? They are sharing their important, they're sharing their, which are, I mean, uh, privacy, we can say, all these things they are sharing here. So in the same way, you can take it as AWS cloud. In the backend, see, this is one VM, virtual machine, and this is one virtual machine. This is one virtual machine, right? So these all virtual machines. In the backend, where did they host it? Where did they have? inside one room. One room means what? One server, one huge server. They are chunking. They are dividing that huge server into virtual machines, right? Like one, two, three virtual machines. They are dividing the virtual machines and they are giving the virtual machines to the respective the tenants. What do you mean by tenants? Respective people. I mean, the respective the customers, we can say. They're giving to the customers. They're dividing the VMs and they're giving it. So for example, if you doesn't want, you take it as a locker, this locker. If you are not using this locker, they will give it to someone else. In the same way, if you take it as a VM, virtual machine, if you are not using this VM, virtual machine, so they will give it to someone else, right? So what is a virtual machine? Virtual machine is something kind of the server, right? I think I had explained one class, complete class. I think we had this virtual machine, right? So what is a? I'll just tell you what is a virtual machine is. So virtual machine is something. Imagine you have one big birthday cake, right? Instead of giving it to one person, we cut it into slices and we share it with everyone, right? So that is what one physical server slicing it to many virtual machines inside it. So that is what the physical, that is what the virtual machines is. So you can install in that virtual machines, you can install whatever OS you have. Outside, it will look like, when you have the cake, when I cut the cake into the slices and I give it to particular persons, it looks like the whole cake is with you, right? So that's where that's where even the complete the virtual machine looks like yours itself. You can install your own server, you can install your own application on that, right? So that's what the virtual machine is. So inside the virtual machine, like we had a kind of after virtual machine, so we had the containers as well, right? So you think of virtual machine as a kind of um, see, you can take it as virtual machine as a full kitchen with with stove, fridge, utensils, a full kitchen virtual machine, right? So virtual machine consists of what? It consists of OS, it consists of hardware. It doesn't consist of hardware, but it consists of networking. All these things it consists of, right? And from the virtual machine, we got a container. What is a container? Container is something you will be it's a kind of tiffin box, you know, with only the food. What food you need. VM is a kind of the whole OS or the whole operating system, and container is something, it's a kind of lightweight, and it's very fast, and it's a kind of host OS, we call it as. It's a kind of software OS. Okay. And VM is something, it's a hard, it's a kind, it involves with the hardware, and container is something, it's a kind of software, right? Example, when you take lunch to school, do you carry full kitchen? No, right? You carry only the tiffin, only the container. So that is what the container, only the, it's a kind of fully packed, we can say it as it's a kind of um, fully packed kitchen into a small software kind of thing. So that's what the container is, right? So after, see, I'll tell you this one. See, first is physical machine. From the physical machine, we have VM, and from the VM, we have the containers. From the containers, we have the serverless. What are serverless? Serverless are something kind of lambda, or we have some of the services, right? You just write the code and the cloud will automatically takes care of it. You don't need the backend, the servers or anything. So in order to run an application, so for example, you take an in your mobile, you have a WhatsApp, right? So you need that in order to install the WhatsApp, you need something else. I mean, you need to download. Where do you install your WhatsApp? In your mobile, right? So in your mobile, you will install the WhatsApp. If you doesn't have the your mobile, how can you install the WhatsApp, right? So that is what, if you want to install an applications, so you should need something, right? So that is where the magic is. That's where the serverless is. Without the base, you can install the you can install the application, right? So that's what the new concept called serverless. In serverless, what you do is like you just write the code and the cloud, in the backend, the cloud runs it. So it's like, example, when you enter your room, automatically the lights will turn on, automatically the lights will turn off. Have you, the fans or anything. So what is the benefit of that? Electricity save and maintenance, all these things, right? So that's where the serverless, that is one example I'll say. So that is what the serverless is, right? So AWS Lambda is a works exactly like, it's a perfect example of the services, AWS services. And so that's what, I mean, you got it right. So that's what the physical machines are. That's what, the VMs are. Any doubts till now? Anyone?
No, skill.
Yeah. So hope you got it. What is public cloud? So public cloud is something you maintain. Yeah, you ask someone to maintain your stuff, right? And now coming to the private cloud. What is a private cloud? So private cloud is something. I mean, uh, you have your own things like, you maintain your. You maintain you maintain your. What do we call? EC2, servers or physical machines or hard disks, whatever. You maintain your own thing. So that is what the private is. So in the legacy, in the legacy kind of, decade back, so you will be seeing all the data centers or all the server rooms. Even if you go to even if you go to the hospitals or anywhere, so you see separate server room, right? So that is what the server room is, something kind of the private, I mean, uh, private models, private cloud. Private cloud, they are offering the private cloud as well. We have the private cloud as well, right? So private cloud is something you will be having separate house in, you will be having, they will not mix up with this. What is this? They will not mix up with this, right? So you will be having separate cloud for independent, like an independent house, like villa, right? Private cloud. See? Yeah. Yeah. So private cloud is something you will be having some, your company, right? See, you're seeing here, right? So it's a kind of directly you will be having your or it's an organization data center. Directly you'll be having to it's a like an independent house. You'll be having directly VPN or secured connection or a secured. You are seeing in the Vizag. How many of you heard about this undersea cable project? How many of you heard about this? And anyone heard about this? In Vizag, Vishakhapatnam recently, they undersea cable project.
Yes, yes, it's a Google project, right?
Yeah,
Google data center.
yeah. What is it under? What is this undersea cable? What, anyone knows this one?
Yeah, the connection, the internet or the what I can say, the data transferring will be high in the underwater cables.
Exactly. So with this, what happens? The infrastructure will build up, right? Infrastructure in the sense like, you will be having high speed data, right? From directly from the US to here, you will be having high speed data with the cables, right? And it will be secure. And what more? So you will be having, there will be no, I mean, there will be no cuts in the sense there will be no interruption, right? So you can feel the difference. See, you can have the difference between when you have the Wi-Fi and when you have the LAN cable. So what is the difference between having a Wi-Fi and LAN cable? So Wi-Fi is something, your Wi-Fi might disconnect and your Wi-Fi might it might become slow. All these things might happen. But when you have a LAN cable, it will be consistent and it will be kind of uh, it will be consistent and it will be speed. It will be, I mean, accurate, right? So these all things, and the latency will be very less, right? So these are all the benefits of having the direct connect. So that is what the private cloud is. So the main difference between the public and private cloud is private cloud is having, they will be having the separate, one is they will be having separate, kind of connection with the organization, and they will not expose, as I showed before, they will not expose it to, they will not give the shade. For example, they will not give you the VM which is shared among all the people. They will be giving separate hardware for you, right? Where you can store it. They will give you the separate hardware. They will not give you the VM, virtual machine. So with virtual machine is something which will be shared among. So they will give you the hardware. So hardware is something which cannot be shared. So they will give you the hardware. So that is what the private cloud is, right? Hope you understood, right? And now coming to the hybrid. So hybrid is something, you have your house and also rent a flat, right? So you can use whichever is convenient you can do. So that is something. So a bank, for example, you take a bank can keeps customer data in private cloud, but uses public cloud for analytics. You got my point? So simple thing. I can use the public and private cloud, or I mean, I can use the public cloud and the private cloud. Private cloud in the sense what? So the data which is, um, one thing. For example, India. Uh, do you think India? India, or not only India or Australia or anywhere, US or anything. So, do you think, for example, JP Morgan is there? So, you're working in offsite, you're working in Bangalore. So, do you think you can access JP Morgan's the client's data here? Anyone? So, do you think you can access it? Anyone can? You can access it or not? So, anyone, have you ever
No,
thought you will be? Have you ever thought like you will be working? You may think like that. Yeah, I'll be working on servers. I will be working on database. I'll be working on these things. I can access those people data, the customers data.
no,
Do you
no.
think? No,
No, sir.
you cannot. Yeah, yeah. So you cannot access those people data. So they are having. See, every country is having restricted to those people, right? Every country's bank should be reporting to their, should report to their financial people, and they will be having some guidance, like they should not reveal the data, or they are having lot of customer prevention acts, right? Customer data prevention acts, right? Simply, even if they give offsite, if they transfer the work from onsite to offsite, you will not have control to their data, to their customer data, right? So you cannot have your customer. If you have explicitly you have access to the customer data, you should be staying inside their premises, inside their, I mean, inside Australia or inside US. You should be inside there in order to access those data, right? So, so that is where, um, so that's how the, I mean, the bank's data or the customer data, even not only for the banks, even for the medical. So you cannot access the medical, I mean, the health records or anyone. Even if you take, there are companies like GE or there are Philips, right? So there are so many companies. You cannot access those people's data randomly, however you want the customer's data. And I just want to share one instance, So, I mean, I think 6, 7 months back, there is an in Philips, there is a huge layoff happened. Anyone aware of that one? Anyone?
No.
Huge layoff happened in Philips. Anyone aware of that one? No. So you know why? So there is an so Philips are good at they are good at manufacturing the medical devices. So Philips are very good at their main market. I mean, their main market is manufacturing the devices. I mean, manufacturing these electrical appliances. I mean, electrical appliances in the ICU, right? In the medical health, I mean, medical electrical appliances, they are very good at, right? So they had Philips had developed one medical appliance that is in the ICU. So it's a kind of what do we call? So uh, on I mean, they had developed one medical. I mean, they had developed one. Uh, they had developed one medical one. I mean, they had developed one. What do we call? Kind of what do we call? Let me. Yeah. So they had developed one kind of so when I mean ventilator. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. So they had developed one ventilator. Okay. So right, ventilator, when it comes to when the people, I mean, when the I mean when the patient was on the high, I mean, when he was on the lost, they will keep the ventilators, right? So they had developed one ventilator, right? In the US, they started using that ventilator, and those people who are using that ventilator, they got the cancer. Whoever uses that ventilator, they got the cancer, and they started suing against these Philips, and Philips has, I mean, it got huge losses, very huge loss, and they removed almost everyone who had worked on that product. You know, so they had removed all the people who had worked on that product. Almost like 10,000 people they had removed. Even the QA, the developers, the testers. I mean, the operations. Everyone they had removed who had worked on that product. You are aware of this, right? I mean, so that's how, I mean, the important is, you know. So I just want to share with you. See, so that's where I mean, the ventilator did not work. So instead of working, it created an, I mean, it created an adverse effect, stating that it created an it created complete reversely, it was created cancer for all the people who uses it ventilator, right? So that's a big thing happened in the Philips. And even if you see recently, I mean, the Amazon, they had removed completely the people who had worked on Alexa, right? So completely it got fired. It fired all the people who worked on the product called Alexa, Amazon Alexa. You heard about the recent news or not? I don't know. So that's the thing. And now coming back to the point, right? So now you got the thing, right? What is an hybrid? So hybrid is something you keep either you keep your what is an important, you keep your stuff in the private cloud, which is not, you keep them into the public cloud. I mean, which can be accessed, which can be used for analytics, or which doesn't have the uh, customer data, that can be keep in public cloud. So in that way they can reduce the cost effective, and they can use the reduce the maintenance, all these things they can do that, right? So hope you understood what is public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. And there is one more thing, it's a kind of mixed. I think we have another one, multi cloud. So multi cloud is something, so you will be having, so recently you are seeing AWS is down and Azure is down, right? Microsoft is down, AWS is down, right? So why do you use? I mean, what is a why do you? I mean, most of the companies, they doesn't want the downtime to be that time also. Like for example, they doesn't want minimum. I mean, at least like 5 to 10 milliseconds also. They doesn't want downtime, right? So in that case, what they will do, they will use multi-cloud. They will use AWS and they will use uh, Azure, right? So what they can do, they will switch back like an DC, right? So for example, if they want, like a data center, you see, I mean, not data center, like we have two data centers, right? So one data center is down, they will be switched back to another data center. What do you mean by data center? Data center is like servers, right? So if there are two servers, one is down, they will switch to another server immediately, so that there will be no outage or there will be no downtime. So once that is up, they will share the server again. I mean, they will come back to the old thing. So that is what the difference between. I mean, that is what the mixed cloud is. So mixed cloud is something you will be using two clouds. One is Azure or AWS you will be using, and you will. It's a kind of high availability. For high availability, you use the mixed cloud, right? So that's the thing, and yeah. So any doubts here till now? Anyone?
No, sir.
Yeah. So yeah. So that's what the. I mean, that's what I mean. The cloud computing is, and yeah. What else is there? You have any doubts? Just let me know. Any no doubts, is it? Okay. So now we'll just discuss on. The concepts called what is availability zone. What is an availability zone? Um, what is an data center? So these all things. So is anyone know what is an availability zone? What do you mean by availability zone? Anyone? Anyone?
Availability zone is nothing but that where the data center is placed actually. So in India we have two availability zones. So that is comes under Asia. So
Yes.
like how they have divided. So the availability zones are like the data center places. Like in US is one of the availability zone. Canada is one of the
Hmm.
availability zone. And
Yes.
Asia, India, Japan. So these are all the availability zones.
Exactly. Exactly. So no. Yeah. So for example, we have the cloud providers. We have who are the cloud providers? We have AWS, Azure, and these are the three top players, right? So we have AWS, Azure, and GCP, right?
Right.
We have AWS, Azure, and GCP, and GCP. And these are the, I mean, they design their global infrastructure. Global infrastructure means what? Like they doesn't want the infrastructure only in the particular place, right? So if they want the infrastructure only in the US, that does not make sense. That's not the global, right? So they want it to spread it completely, right? So they want to make it resilient, highly resilient, resilient in the sense highly, highly available, right? So there are two components, most important components. One is regions and one is availability zones. Availability zones. Availability zones. Okay. Availability zones. Okay. So what is a region? So region. So for example, if you see, so if you, as of now, there are how many regions do you think AWS is have? AWS is having.
Mm, 30 regions. 30.
There are 39 regions we have,
Okay.
right? We have 39 regions and six are yet to come. I mean, they are under development and six will come soon. So I'll tell you what is these regions are. Okay. So, so what is a region? So region is something kind of, it's a geographical area, right? So it's geographical area in the sense. So it's a kind of, think of a region as a country level location. So it's a country, uh, and inside the region there are multiple data centers. Okay. So country level location means what? So for example, AWS Mumbai region is one thing, and Singapore region is one, and Azure, like an AWS, like we have an Azure as well. Azure Central India, and like an GCP, inside the region. Region means what? There are, like, it's a kind of geographical. It's a kind of, um, for example, I have a gated community. I'm staying in a gated community, right? So I'm staying in a gated community called Prestige. Inside the Prestige, So we have multiple blocks. Each block is having a different names, right? You got it right. So that is what. So in order to, I mean, when I want to come from uh, railway station to my home, will I give my block name or will I give my prestige the apartment name? What I'll give?
Apartment name.
I'll give my apartment name. That is what the geographical location is, right? So inside, obviously, I'm staying in my apartment, right? I'm staying in one of the block, one of the, one of the block. I'm staying it, but I'm giving my apartment name. Apartment name is what? Apartment name is kind of geographical location, right? So that is what the geograph. That is what the region is. Region is something geographical area. Geographical, you can call it as geographical location. And as I told, and each region consists of multiple availability zones, right? So this is something important now. Each region has multiple availability zones. Each region has multiple availability zones, right? So what is availability zone? What is an availability zone? I'll tell you that one. So as I told, region is geographically separated from other regions. For example, there are hundreds or thousands of kilometers will be apart from this each region. For example, we have AWS Mumbai region we have. So what do we have another regions in India, you tell me?
I think Hyderabad we have, right?
Yeah. So what is how much far between those regions?
Almost around
Yeah.
600 to 800 kilometers.
So it's more than that, right?
Yeah, it's more than that.
Yeah. So keeping beside two regions, it doesn't make sense. So why do they prepare, why do they keep the regions? So for example, if anything happens in that particular region in the sense if something happens in the Mumbai, right? So in Hyderabad, so that it can come up with that. I mean, it can come up with the, in the sense it can, it can serve. If that is gone also, this one will be there. Hyderabad will be there, right? You got it right. So in the same, that is out. So one thing is gone also, like we will be having another one. So that's what the main motive is. That's what the main agenda for having the regions are. Inside the regions, we have another thing called data, availability zones. Availability zones are nothing but the data centers, the physical data centers, we call it as, right? So what is a data center? So data center is something like an apartment. I have a block, I told, right? So it's a kind of apartments. Inside the regions, you will be having a data center. See how complex it is. Like, so data stored in one region does not, for example, I'll tell you. For example, you take Mumbai, right? So we have regions only in Mumbai. Yeah. So we have Mumbai, right? And we have Hyderabad, right? So if you see in the map, you will get to know why did they choose that. See, see. So these are the locations, these are the regions we how they had come up with. So if something happens here, it's fine. It will. So these are all the kind of redundance. Like, if something happens anywhere, so it should not lose. It should not go down. So that's where the main motive is, right? So Now coming to the part. So we have Mumbai and Hyderabad regions, right? And now, so data stored in Mumbai automatically does not automatically replicate to Hyderabad region. You know that? It does not automatically replicate. Basically, we should, when we create an application, when we create a system, when we create when we create a server or when we create an application, we need to choose whether we need two availability zones or two more than three availability zones or three. So that's where we need to choose, right? So the data, we will think like, okay, data stored here will automatically replicate to here. No, it does not replicate here, right? So we should explicitly uh, make it store in multiple regions or multiple availability zones. We should make it stored. Like it will be cost associated. If it is an high application, high availability application, that's where we should make sure that it should. Um, that's where the cost association will come and down, right? So that is one thing. And so why, first of all, if it is not the case, I mean, the data is not getting replicated. What is the purpose of having the region, right? So in the region, as I told, we have multiple data centers. For example, in Mumbai, we have three regions or four regions where we have data centers, right? In the Hyderabad as well, in Hyderabad, we have three or four regions where we have three or four data centers, right? So in those three or four data centers, we can choose either we can have these data center, we can store it, or I mean, you want to store your data in three data centers or four data centers, you can store it like that. You're getting my point, right? You cannot replicate data from here to here, but you can replicate data inside the Mumbai within the three data centers. You can replicate it, but not from here to here. Anyone, any doubt?
No.
Right? So, so first of all, yeah, that's what the thing is. Why regions exist, right? So in order, for example, you are having a website. So I'm using an KSR. I'm using KSR tech. I mean, I'm using this, right? KSR database. I have deployed this website in India server, right? So in India server, I have deployed this one. Those who access from the US, right? They might uh, face the latency. Why? Because they are retrieving this. They are retrieving this website from US, right? Which was deployed on India. You got it. So which was deployed on India in the sense, I mean, this web server was deployed on Mumbai in Mumbai. So from Mumbai, he was trying to, I mean, from the US, uh, he was trying to access from the US. He is trying to access the website which was deployed on the Mumbai. So in India, so obviously you will feel the latency, and obviously you will feel the kind of the lag between the connections, right? So you take the Netflix. How is the Netflix is getting so much? I mean, your Netflix is it's a US one, right? So it was deployed on the, I mean, it was a US company, and you are able to watch the Netflix. You are able to stream it very, I mean, without any kind of what do we call? Without any buffer or without any kind of stuck or with, I mean, you're able to watch it very freely, right? How are you able to do that?
Maybe they have deployed their servers in multiple regions.
Exactly. So they have deployed on, they will be using on multiple regions, and they will be replicating it, and they will be using this. There is a thing called edge caching. edge caching. So how many of you know this kind of content caching? So for example, if I open a new website, if I open a new website, it will take some time for me to load it. So if I open Google, within a fraction of seconds, it will open. Why? It's already stored in my cache, right? So it's already the cache was stored in my already in my browser. So if you go here and if you clear the cache and if you open it again, it will take some time to open it, right? It will store the cache, it will save that, right? So that's where it will, that's where you, how many of you heard about Akamai? Have you heard about Akamai? Anyone?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Right? So Akamai is the pioneer in this content delivery network services. It's a kind of cache services. So if you see any of the company, I mean, most of the companies in the real time, they use the Akamai on top of the web server, you know, on top of the web server, application server, they use the Akamai URL to cache the content. So Akamai is the top one to, it's a kind of content delivery network.
So can
So,
you elaborate why? What is caching? Can you explain yourself, please?
okay. So, okay. So cache is something, yeah. So cache is something, it's a kind of, we can call it as a temporary storage. Like, mm, it's a kind of random access memory, or we can say it's a kind of temporary storage. Like you can see the recycling bin. I can tell you. So recycling bin is something you simply store. I mean, you delete a file and it will go to the recycling bin, and you need to refresh it again, right? So it's a kind of temporary storage. We can say it's a kind of if you want, if you want to store the frequently accessed data, right? So if you want to retrieve it very quickly, you will store it somewhere, right? So in a simple term, um, it's a kind of it keeps the copy of a data so that in the memory, so that it can immediately it can bring back. So as I told, so for example, so there is a new website, okay? So there is a new website and you're opening it for the first time. So it will take some time. Once you open it, it will store this kind of content in the back end. Okay. And when you open the next time, immediately it will give it. It will already, it was, the storage was there. It stores in the metadata format, and it's immediately it will give you the, it will give the result. So I can give you, so why we need to do the cache is something. So yeah, it's kind of like it's a faster medium. In the daily example, I can give you this example. So storing your there is a phone number. There are 100 phone numbers. Okay, there are, in the 100 phone numbers, you have your friend phone numbers which you frequently want to dial. I mean, you frequently speak with him or frequently you chit chat with him. So if you memorize that number in your brain, okay, so every time you need to, I mean, you don't need to go back to the contacts, or you don't need to look for that contact, right? So you directly enter and you can directly call him. You got it? So that is how you are memorizing his phone number, right? So that is what you're catching the memory. You're doing, you call it as a catchy, right? So you're just catching it in the memory, and whenever you want, you're just calling it directly by giving the mobile number, right? So that is what. So, and also, you take the YouTube. So the video, the video loads, so you have some videos which, you already had watched, and they load very fast because they got stored in the faster memory. There is a thing called fast memory. So they might stored in the faster memory. That is what the RAM. So that is what the RAM or SSD. So how many of you heard about this SSD? Have you heard about this SSD?
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
storage.
Yeah.
Storage.
So why was SSD was so popular compared to the legacy hard disks?
It's input output processing.
Because it
Yeah,
has the more faster than other Linux systems, and the performance and the input outputs are very fast.
exactly. So that is where this, that's where this SSD or RAM is used for catching the memory and catching this storage. They are very fast, and they're just a kind of like, storing it for temporary use case, and whenever you want it, and immediately they will, it's a kind of, instead of going back every memory, just they will store it in a temporary one. And whenever you give the recurrence one, for example, as I gave the Google, immediately it will say that, okay, I have in my memory, yeah, we have Google, and he's referring to this page only. I need to give this. Immediately it will give that. You got it? So it's a kind of storing the basic, which is a recurring thing. It's a kind of storing the data regarding to that cache. Cache in the sense, that's what storing the data, which is a frequent one, right? So that's what the cache is. So for example, if I type, how come these things are coming? You tell me. How come whatever I type, so whatever, how come it's coming? All these things. Simple, right? So it's these are all kind of stored. So these are all kind of stored in the backend. That is what the cache is. So that, that we can have the definition like, it's a kind of storage layer that just keeps the data, which are frequent requests for the data. So if I give one data point, and it will store in the backend about this location, or else about this point, it will store it in the backend. Like, so in order to give again for me this one, so see how fast it gave, right? So it's just a kind of storing the data. So storing the data for a temporary purpose, cache is, right? So yeah, any doubt? No? Yeah. So yeah. So that is what the regions are. And so now we have discussed about regions, and availability zones are nothing but, as I told, these are physically separate. As I told, independent data centers. So we have data centers. We have um, we have around. I think we have around. We have in India. One is, Mumbai and Hyderabad. We have availability zones, and total availability zones.
120 available zones.
Yes. So previously, when I started, like, I started in 2000. When I started, we have around 30, 40 available zones. That's it. We have around 40, 50. That's it. And now you see how many availability zones.
There
Yeah.
are 120 availability zones with
Yeah, we have 120 plus availability zones, right?
yes.
So we have 120 plus availability zones. See, 120 plus availability zones. What do you mean by availability zones? As I told, availability zones are nothing but data centers. You can keep it like this. So data centers. Data centers means what? So data centers means I mean it's a kind of where you store all the physical servers, where you have all the physical servers. For example, in Visakhapatnam, we are getting a data center, right? So in Visakhapatnam, what is the data center we are getting it? So it's coming, I mean, Google data center, right? So what is it? So what do you mean by data center? Data center is kind of complete physical servers. What I mean, all the physical servers. So data center looks like this. See, this is what the data center is. So this is what the data center is, right? So data center. So we have 120 plus data centers like this for the AWS, all the servers. For example, this server will be having hundreds of virtual machines, right? So this server might have hundreds of virtual machines, and so that is how it will be there, right? And that's how it was derived. Like that's how what is the difference? I mean, that's what the difference between availability zone and regions are, and yeah, availability zones and the regions. So yeah, any difference? I mean, any doubts?
No.
Yeah. Tomorrow we'll discuss about I mean how can we create an account in the AWS, and so tomorrow we'll discuss about how I mean you people come up with having an make your credit card ready. So we'll create in the class itself. All if you doesn't have any, if it doesn't have AWS account, we'll try to create an AWS account tomorrow, right? So we'll create an
Okay.
AWS account. Yeah.
So I'm having one doubt. Like, what means so in this course you have mentioned MLOps. MLOps.
MLOps. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what is that MLOps like exactly? You understand in the sense, what is the difference for actual DevOps to the MLOps? What is the actual significance of MLOps?
Yes. Yes. See, the main difference between MLOps and DevOps is um, see, DevOps is something you deploy the models, right? I mean, not deploying the models, you deploy, you do the CI/CD pipelines and you deploy it, right? So now it's got completely streamlined. Now everyone was doing, everyone was deploying it, everyone was doing, I mean, everyone was um, doing the monitoring SRE, they are doing it for the applications, right? They're calculating the accuracy, latency, and they're doing the error budgets. Everything they're going as smooth as it. They're getting the uptime, everything they're doing it. Now coming to the MLOps, so which is a kind of, I mean, now everyone here, what we need to do is like we have everyone was doing training a model and they're deploying it and they're just watching the magic happens. And do you think the um, everyone was expecting the profit, right? But in reality, what's happening? So 87% of, I mean, almost 90% of ML projects never make to the production, right? Do you agree with me? Right? So it takes 9 months on an average to deploy a single model. I mean, not 9 months, like minimum you take 6 months to, on an average, to deploy a single model, right? So,
Yes.
and if they reach also like 50% of models, they do not reach production. If they reach also, they deliver the fail. So if in what we are, I mean, we are in a we are in a state where we are in a baby steps to ML ops. Like, I mean, um, everyone, I mean, if you take 1 decade back, the same thing, this AWS, when this DevOps came, so they also, it started, when it started, no one, this DevOps and all, they want to deploy an application in previous, I mean, 1 decade or 2 decades back, when they want to deploy an application, the same, the same way they are, how now they are facing the issue, the same way they used to face an issue in the previous 2 decades back, right? But now how smoothly it is going with the DevOps, right? That is where the MLOps also, the in the initial phase it's like that, and now in with the MLOps, with the MLOps concepts, what we can do is, the main thing is we should able to deploy the MLOps applications, MLOps models with a 90%, 90% error downtime, and we should be able to deploy all the models. The main challenge is in the MLOps is, see, DevOps is something the application will not change, but MLOps is something the model will change, and we should it should understand that model, and it should deploy according to that model, right? You see the complexity of, you see the complexity of ML systems. The model, you think of an iceberg, right? The model is something, 90% the hidden complexities like data pipelines, versioning, kind of reproducibility or monitoring. So these are all governance or retraining. So these all things are not there at all the present, in the present market, right? So that is where the MLOps, like, what we do is we just do the DevOps, plus we combine the data engineering, plus we do the machine learning, and we make sure deploy the model from end to end. For example, training to deploying the model, we just do the deployment effectively, and monitoring that model accurately, and by applying the SRE standards, like we apply error budgets and uptime, SLAs, SLOs. We apply to that models, so that if anything happens to that model, we will get to know. So that is where these MLOps was. So we will be using some kind of uh, so there are mainly some of the things involved, like some of the tools involved, like for versioning, we use DVC model registries, or so we use automated pipelines. We use, for example, Kubeflow, so to look for consistency and repeatability and all. So we use Prometheus for Grafana or ML flow we use. So these all things we use, So for example, how can we use this governance? For example, governance. How can we use this track? Compliance or lead, to just show how models are trained. So these all things we use. We will work on this, and at the end, what we can deliver to the companies, like 70% faster can we deliver the model deployment we can do, or 40% better performance compared to the now. And the models, how can we deploy 4x, like how fast we can deploy into the production. So these all things can come into the MLOps. See now how Netflix is live. Netflix or Airbnb you can take, or Amazon, how they are deploying it, how Uber is doing it, right? So that's how we need to learn. That's how we are going to learn in this. Yeah.
Sir, can we get the content, like in this course, what we are going to learn?
So sorry, Darshan.
So can we get the content of this course?
Yeah, I think content will be shared with you. I'll ask team to share with you. Darshan. Anything else? Yeah. So if nothing else, we'll wind it up here. So you can post your queries or you can post your doubts in the chat box, right? And yeah. So tomorrow we'll, as I told, tomorrow we'll discuss about the AWS account creation. How can we create account? And after that, you go on and create the accounts. We'll create the accounts and we'll discuss. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.